Hello, everyone. Welcome to MECCA Moments for December 11th, 2020. I'm so glad that we have all of you here. And we have a great conversation about your children, managing expectations for your children during the holidays, some great tips and tricks to have a safe, happy, and joyful holiday when you're a parent. Welcome Dr. Mercedes Ebanks from the MECCA Group and also Kim Edwards. Hello, ladies.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
So, Dr. Ebanks, can you introduce, again, no stranger to MECCA Moments, introduce Kim for us, please.
Yes, I'm so glad that Kim has again volunteered to moments. She is no stranger to our moments. She's always gives very helpful tips, especially to parents about interactions with their children. And but just to kind of recap a little bit about her, because she does so much. She is a Washington, D.C. based clinician. She received her BS and Master's of Education in Speech and Language Pathology. She also has a graduate certificate in Applied Behavior Analysis. And she basically merges speech and language services along with applied behavior analysis to work with children that have special needs. So thank you, Kim, for joining us again today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, Kim, we're talking about managing expectations for the holiday, and you're going to give us 14 tips on how to do that. So where do we start? We're going to start with managing expectations, right?
Yes. I would love to start there because I think about the full virtual landscape that we have today. Yeah. And I want to provide listeners with accurate, but still bite-sized and modern strategies. So the real of the real is we have to manage our expectations, right? Kids get excited, they get encouraged, and we want to continue that healthy expectation, but we want to manage it to prevent some of that sadness or disappointment that might come up. And so our first tip is really validating that experience in that moment, letting them know that if they feel disappointed, you're disappointed on their behalf, that you're not downgrading them or criticizing them. You're saying, if you want to cry, that's fine. If you want to pout, that's fine too, depending on the developmental age. But encourage them to spend some time alone, but then also come back and talk about, why they're disappointed and express and continue to coach them through that. Which leads me to my second point, which is labeling that emotion. It might be disappointment. Like I said, it might be sadness. For some of the little ones, it might be anger in that moment. But giving them that word really helps them to understand that this emotion is real. This is space to have that emotion. And I now have this person to work and help me through this emotion to kind of get to that next stage, which leads into my third tip, which is teach them.
Before you go to the next one, so it's probably children don't always have the language to how to express their emotions. So helping them with that labeling is a key piece, right?
It is, because I think a lot of students and a lot of children use sadness as their go-to word. You say, like, how are you feeling? I'm sad. Like, what are you thinking? I'm sad. And that just is it. So it allows you to build on to, yes, you are sad, but what's the why behind that sadness?
Right.
And that can really help you.
And I certainly
go ahead. I'm sorry.
And I certainly agree with Kim that as parents, we don't want our children to feel sad. We don't want our children to feel disappointed. And sometimes we'll say, don't feel that way. Don't, there's no reason to be sad. And there is for them. And that kind of goes back to her first point and her second point about validating, allowing them to feel the way they do and helping them to find other words to describe that feeling, other than kind of, and again, depending on the developmental age, what is appropriate for them, because sadness is just one of many feelings, but letting them express themselves is very important.
Exactly. You are hitting the nail on the head. That sadness, we've got to move past that, because what I was going to move into is that third component of coping with it. And exactly what you're saying. You're sad all the time. We can't cope with just that. We have to really help them figure out, you are disappointed. So what can we do to move into the future of that disappointment? And a strategy that I usually go to is showing a calendar. And, in this day and age, it might be on your phone, and that's okay. But show them a calendar of what else is coming up for you that you might be excited about, or you might be able to look forward to, so they don't dwell on that one moment in time. And then also kind of thinking about what's realistic, what's not. I think about older children, and older children, you can have that conversation and say, hey, actually I had a conversation with a student today asking about an Amazon delivery. And we all know you got to pray on Amazon. It might say it's delivered today. It might be tomorrow. So having those conversations.
And dealing with the anticipation, looking forward to something is wonderful, but also anticipating that it may not happen exactly that way or during that timeline is very important, because that's where the disappointment, the feeling of being crushed, can occur. And, unfortunately, during these times of the pandemic, children have been very disappointed not being able to get together with friends, or not being able to see other family members and things like that, kind of having a plan B. What is to happen if we don't have a plan B? If we don't go, then this is something else we can do,
Right. Kind of having that in your back pocket of, if this doesn't work, that's okay. And you can even say, I'm disappointed too, but we can both do, this other thing together, and it'll make us a little bit happier.
Right.
It's not the top dollar thing that we wanted to do, but it's a close second.
Right. And I guess that moves into the next part is really managing the stress. And so walk us through that, Kim.
Yes. Thank you. Managing stress is twofold in my mind. We have the stress of the parent or guardian, whoever is taking that huge responsibility to not only take care of the student, child, but to have to be the hype person during this time, So I always say, manage your own stress, because they're looking at us and how we cope with it. If we're frazzled, they're going to be frazzled. If we're kind of in solitude, so will they, and we'll never know. Right. Yeah. So modeling the idea of, I am stressed, I'm overwhelmed. What I'm going to do about it, I might meditate. Right. There's so many apps. There's, what is it called? The sleep meditation app for kids. There's Headspace. There's one that I love, Stop, Breathe, and Think. That is great for like the 3rd through 5th grade child. That are all apps that they can use them to meditate on their own. And if that's not your jam, do some mindfulness activities. Do some breathing. Some journaling is always a great go-to. I love yoga for kids. If the younger kids are interested in that, that's very calming. But if you have a teenager that is not going to do yoga, that's okay. You've got some great coloring activities, even adult coloring, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I love those coloring books and apps. That's pretty much exploded pretty much last year, but it's definitely something that people have gravitated towards, especially during the pandemic. So that's definitely one of the things that you could do as adults. It's okay to play, which we don't often talk about a lot for adults. We grow up and we forget that play is an essential part of stress management.
You're exactly right. I think there are the old school kind of Where's Waldo, or the mazes that you go through. And those are great examples that we as adults, of course, we love it. It's free. It's easy. It takes us back to when we were young. But we can share it with our kids too. And it's a very easy and free, for the most part, which is helpful strategy to manage some of that stress. And for those that I think like to do outdoor activities, especially during this time where you're kind of cooped up during the day anyway, especially with school. You can go on those scooters or go for a walk in the park. I always like to make things fun with the little ones. And anytime I'm outside, like, let's make it a challenge. Who can get the most steps in?
Yeah.
Or who can find, 20 brown leaves, to kind of get their mind off of we're just walking.
Yeah. Walking to the mailbox. Yes, walking to the mailbox around taking advantage of those days where the weather is, a little warmer, even if it's a kind of a cold day, kind of wrapping yourself up and then coming back in and having some hot chocolate to warm up.
Yeah.
There's certainly things that can be done because we are in the house so much more that we do need that fresh air and that time outside, because now we're not even getting it going to the car, or walking to school. So it is very important to go outside for a brief period of time, let that little bit of vitamin D in your skin and, looking at how bright it is outside. And as Kim suggested, making it fun, how many, what is it? Don't step on the crack. Break your mama's back. So just, I walk around the neighborhood, just going to the mailbox, take a different route, get lost if you want to, or in your neighborhood and try to make it back home. And then coming in and having tea or, hot chocolate.
Yes, exactly. And I love that you mentioned the tea and hot chocolate, because I always think that's a great opportunity to come inside and bond after being outside and, go old school. Like you said, old school games, make funny jokes. I love a good dad joke.
Yeah.
And
Dr. Ebanks, I love how, just these activities, they're so simple, but they bring and provide so much joy and happiness. And I think we get so caught up with creating these grand activities and grand things. We have to take a vacation, and sometimes it just requires a little bit of creativity and using what's really around you to create the atmosphere that you want to.
Definitely. And it's not about, we know that this is a very difficult times for many families in terms of financially, and they may not be able to buy the latest and the greatest, toy and game. And there's so many things that you have at home, whether you have Monopoly, you have Jenga, you have, and I'm not advertising for any of these games, but, you have things at home, whether you want to draw Pictionary, you can make and do Pictionary without having the real Pictionary board game. You could play Name That Tune. You could make things interactive and fun. I was just watching how Sweden has Nice on Fridays. It's basically how families in Sweden on Fridays basically have family days. It is almost countrywide, and they call it Nice. And they really encourage families to spend time together. And I think that's very, important, because you could spend time with your family in the house and not spend time with them. Everybody can be in a separate room. Everybody can do. And I think that's important too. You don't want to inundate and feel like, okay, it's a structured schedule, especially during the holiday, that every second is, has to be accounted for. However, incorporate and say, between 4 and 5, it's family time. All the other time you guys can have by yourself. I'm a strong advocate of eating dinner together, having that time to really have conversation or engage in watching, Family Feud or, a game show together, but really about having meals together, I think is so important.
I love that.
Yeah.
And so I guess the next thing is, with creating those activities, you're going to have to also change the behavior, Kim, right?
Yes. And changing that behavior really goes in 2 different directions. You have the behavior of the people in the either the home or the apartment, the dwelling, we'll say, and also the behavior of the children. And I want to really be focused and be intentional about this next statement. Because like I said, I'm not advertising for anyone, but I think being aware of your child's routine and the changes can really help prevent some of those flare-ups or some of those maybe tantrums that you might see during these holiday times. Because just like adults, kids know, they know that there's something to anticipate, whether it's presents or maybe relatives or candy for the little ones. I get a lot of candy during holiday time. But you also want to be cognizant of any whining that may or may not be normal, or asking or demanding for more things, or some of the older ones having an attitude when they typically would have let things go. So those shifts, so to speak, in their behavior, and really anticipating, but also, like the doctor said, know that this is not school time. This is family time. So that routine can look like, hey, this is when we just relax and play a board game together.
Yeah.
Or this is a time where, it looks like you want some space. Me too. So this is our relaxing time together.
Yeah.
Yeah, incorporating that type of routine during the holiday time, I think, is not only imperative, but it really helps prevent some of those behaviors that we don't necessarily want to see during the holiday happy time. Yeah, I think. And also reading a book. I am a huge proponent, the educational background, read 20 minutes a day, elevate and advance the vocabulary. But this is also a great time to give that choice. So allow them to pick their own book. Even if it's something they can't read it to them. Read one page a day.
Yeah. And reading together again, where it is everyone, they can read a magazine, or a sports magazine, and anything that they want to read, like what is a comic book, if they're really into, anime and things like that, letting it be a time that you could be together again, but doesn't have to be in terms of kind of engaging and talking. And you can ask questions and talk about it. What is it that you liked about the book and things like that. And then again, with the smaller ones, reading the book together. But you can sit in the living room instead of having the TV on. Everyone has their favorite book. And I think it's very important, because typically a lot of times parents will send their children to read, and then the children don't see you reading. And they need to see that you're reading too, that you're relaxing and enjoying reading, because that then encourages them to read too. And it doesn't have to be a book or a novel. It could be a magazine, and now, because online, people might have their books of preference on their tablets, but letting the kids know that you're not on Facebook searching and on YouTube, but that you're actually reading books.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
I think it goes back to what Kim said earlier. Modeling behavior and modeling the things that you want to see in your children is, a good thing to do.
Yes. And I think that example of being in the living room, being in an open space, depending on what your home life space looks like. I have a front porch, and I love sitting on the front porch. I'll have like my coffee or my tea. And my nephew, let him sit right next to me. Like I'll pour him a cup of, hot chocolate. That's what I want you to see. I want you to relax, but be intentional about it. Like grab a book, grab a magazine, even the newspaper. You rarely see them nowadays, but you still can, enjoy that time.
I mean, just listening to you explain these activities, it just brings so much peace and relaxation, and we need more of that. And so it takes work, but the work provides this kind of peace and joy, and we can do that in all of our homes. It's so simple, right?
It is. And, I'm a huge proponent of let's find something inexpensive or free if possible, because, you don't want to add the stress, right? I always tell people, what do you already have? What's already in your routine? We're just kind of building on that.
Right.
I don't want to add more stress to a potentially stressful time.
Right.
And the libraries have where you can download books onto your tablets, and so you can borrow books. So again, it just doesn't have to be a purchase. There are a lot of free ebooks, on apps as well, or, little tidbits, or again, if you like poetry, there's a lot of free resources. And I think that's important for people to kind of do a search of free poetry, and you'll find, a plethora of listings for that.
Exactly.
But I think the key word that you said, Brandon, is peace and joy. Right now, it is, a very trying time, and we have to find our own inner peace, and we have to find our own joy within each other to make sure that our children and our families and our loved one are able to have that as well. But we have to find it ourselves as parents, as well, and then pass that on, going back to the modeling for that for our children.
Yeah. Because even we're kind of creating that atmosphere in the home, right? We're setting the tone for the home.
And going back to previously what you said about mindfulness, if you're not taking, those moments to be centered, you can't really provide a space for this joy and peace, because you're not even peaceful or joyful in your own self. And so really setting the tone for the family, the best you can. I love that you say, just, center yourself, find some space, and everything else can permeate throughout, that space if you're centered.
Yes, correct. I think it really, if there's any big takeaway, it would be that of center yourself and allow your family, the atmosphere around you, to be that joy. Like you said, I like the word permeate. That can permeate through your kids, through your grandkids. If you have other family members living in the home, like we said, this time is a trying time. Dynamics are different than they were before. So it's also a great opportunity to kind of set some new traditions, so to speak. Of, we used to go to, grandpa's house down in North Carolina. We can't do that. So like, think about the Zoolights. They're free. We can walk, it's available. Things like that. Stringing up popcorn. Once again, something that this generation probably has never done.
Yeah.
But it's a great activity that you can enjoy, eat, fellowship, all these things together, and maybe take it into the next year.
So let's talk more about that, keeping the spirits in celebrations. I know you say, one of the first things is making a grateful list. Tell me more about that, and what does that mean?
Yes, I love this. Any age, even if you have high schoolers, this is still a fantastic activity to do together. Making a list of not just what you're grateful for, but maybe individuals that have really helped or supported you. Because I think that takes it and elevates it a little bit to not only things, the tangibles, but who has really poured into your life, and a lot of times, especially with the teenagers, that's when you'll get the long list of my friend that I can always rely on, or the neighbor that's so trustworthy, they get my packages for me, and really identifying that community that you have. But also it helps for the parents or guardians to start that dialogue of, these are trying times. Maybe our pockets, our purses don't look like they did last year, but we have each other. We have our health. We have a roof over our head. We have that ebook available. There are still things that we're grateful for that we want to acknowledge, and not just acknowledge, really hold on to.
Yeah. Still, I mean, Kim, I know that we talk about being grateful all the time, but what does that really do when we list these things that we're grateful for? What does that do for our mental space?
Yeah, it opens up endorphins, that positivity, just like for some people that like to work out, or some people that like to listen to great music, that like happy feeling that you have, it just really resonates. And also it allows your brain to shift a little bit from that negative that is a bit trying, and it takes some effort, to something that's less effortful. Grateful lists allow us to see things in a different light, allow us to kind of relax the shoulders, get that breathing in tune, and really understand that things are not great. They're not fantastic, but there are still opportunities to smile.
Right.
And I would add to that that it's a visual. It shows you how much you have to be grateful for. You know, sometimes when you're trying to keep a count in your head, you're going to lose count. You're not going to realize it. But when you put it down on a piece of paper and you make that list, you'll see that you have many blessings.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I was in a Bible study last week, and we talked about oftentimes we're focused on what we lost instead of what we're gaining or what we've gained. And 2020 is an example of we have lost so much, but we have also gained so many opportunities this year that we could have never imagined. You just one off the top of my head. I mean, the opportunity to work from home and, not be in the office, which some people like it and some people don't, but it's still an opportunity for many people that may continue past 2020. So I love the whole gratefulness, even though in the midst of circumstances that don't seem ideal, there's always something to smile about and find joy. And if we look for it, it may be right there in front of us.
Yeah.
I certainly, and I will attest to that, because yesterday, as I'm going through the MECCA Facebook page, I looked at how many views the videos have had. And people might not be able to sign on at the time that we are on live, but I see how many views. There's 300, there's 800, there's 600. And that, to me, I'm very grateful, for, because probably pre-COVID, we wouldn't have done this.
Never.
But now these topics have touched many people, even if they look at it for a moment or look at it for the whole session, the whole period, the whole hour. This went from a half an hour segment to an hour, and that is something Dr. Keisha Mack and I are very grateful for, that we are able to continue to spread the word of mental health, emotional wellness, and peace and joy, and awareness to, many others. So that's what I'm certainly grateful for on my grateful list.
I love that. It's Thanksgiving again, everybody. Okay, so let's go into number 2. You mentioned this briefly, but talk about Zoolights and what that is and how that can be an activity.
Yes. So I currently live in the district. And I love anything that's outside, even pre-COVID, just because it's holiday spirit. I want to put my big coat on, You only take it out a couple times a year. And I think about the Zoolights at the zoo down at Woodley Park. And I think about if you live in Maryland, so Largo area has Watkins Park has another zoo opportunity that I want to say there's certain days, so definitely check out their website, that they have free days, they have discount days, great opportunity for churches or school groups, and of course for families. And it's in this time period, it's COVID safe. You're with your bubble, you're in your car, and it is a great opportunity to not only see all the great things that are creativity, art, culture in a light show, but also have that fellowship, and it helps small businesses, so there's a lot of community and even like some social justice opportunities as a family that, once again, it is just permeating the goodness, the joy, the things that you may forget about when you're in your home during the week,
I love that.
I certainly promote those. Go to Watkins Park every year, and it may be the same thing every year, but we're going to do a drive-by, and we're going to go through. And Zoolights was wonderful. Got lost getting back to our car, but it was but getting lost was fun.
Yeah.
So, but it was, but again, that is one of the fortunate things about being in the DMV, that there are a lot of, free or discounted activities. But if you don't live in this area, you can certainly go to Groupon. Groupon has a lot of deals and packages for, individuals as families. Certainly churches have different activities, and just, looking to see, sometimes the local schools will know of activities, and for you to be able to do, with your family, with your children and things of all ages. I think of all ages.
I agree.
Yeah, and even if you don't know a location, you can make that an activity. Let's go scouting for lights in different neighborhoods and see who can find, who can pick the neighborhood who has the lights. And so you can pick anything. It sounds like out of an activity with your family, as long as you're dedicated to it, and you get everyone involved. So I love those things.
Yeah.
Okay, so you go into Jello building molds. I don't know what this is. Explain this to me.
If you would have asked me a month ago, I would have said the same thing.
I don't know, so help me.
One of my good friends has 4 kids, so she is my go-to for children's activities that are on a budget. And Walmart actually has different Jello molds in the same craft section or baking sections, but they're for kids. So they're small. They're like miniature molds. I think they're either $4 or $5, so you can reuse them, especially if you have multiple kids. And they are shapes of dinosaurs. They are shapes of cars. They're all the little components. So they actually can create the Jello mold, build their car, and then eat it.
That's fun. You're really playing with your food.
Exactly. You can't tell the children, don't play with your food anymore.
Yes. And I told her, I think that is brilliant because, in our generation, you made your gingerbread house, you might have decorated cookies with your parent. And those are excellent activities. I still love them today. But, like I said, we want to be modern with our tips. And using a Jello mold, Jello is $1. You have water at home. This is a great opportunity to not only get some education because you're pouring, you're mixing, you're measuring, but it's Jello. So you can eat it before dinner.
Yeah. And talking, the dollar store has like the cookie molds too. So you can do things with cookie, shapes and making things, baking things, as well. I'm banned from trying to build a gingerbread house because it got demolished as we were building it. But
yes, that is.
It sounds like so many fun activities that you can bring to your family and create new traditions every year. Who builds the best Jello molds? Who builds the best gingerbread house? And then maybe even have a competition where you have to judge or you showcase it. I mean, the creativity and the activities that can be born out of just these simple things are endless. I think even putting a video or a content online and like making it a show. So,
or asking Facebook viewers to vote, like whose house is the best, gingerbread house and things like that. That kids love activities like that, and again of all ages, so.
I want to have kids right now so I can do all those ideas and like put it out online, have graphics and everything. So
and it's great for families. You can't go see auntie and uncle in North Carolina, but you can Zoom and show them the car that you made. They can make their own car
and have a competition between those are pretty fantastic. Okay, and that brings us kind of next to number 4, which is virtual games. That could be possibly a virtual game between family.
Yes, exactly. And there are so many that are either online, as far as if you have iPhone, Android, iPad, all these different devices that literally go to your apps. There's Heads Up, there's Pictionary. Guess That Tune is one of my favorites because then you can really introduce some old school songs.
What is that again? Guess that too, because I just know of. Okay,
Yeah,
play that.
we're gonna have to play.
As I'm listening to you in this segment, I'm just hearing like you need a YouTube page and you need like sponsorships for toys and things for kids, because these are all great ideas and you talk about it with such great authority. So consider that. That's just a tip for me.
I will. But they're all free because, like I said, I am very cognizant of, like I said, my friend has 4 children. So that is something to consider. You don't want to have to buy something 4 times.
Yeah.
Ideally, buy it once and have like multiple opportunities, or not have to pay it all, and realize that you can do all sorts of things with your children.
Yeah.
And it's fun. It's so much fun. It gets you up, moving, and really engage in some things that you may not have as a parent before. Like I love a good board game.
Yeah.
I don't know if every other parent loves board games, but I can do an app. I can,
Yeah. And you can also incorporate the children to find the activity. So if you're doing, you could, change it. Today, the oldest, picks it, the game, and then the youngest. So you can certainly have them be part of planning the activity, and so that they're also more invested instead of, okay, mommy or daddy wants to, is choosing this, that they also want to, and teach you. I think kids love when they can teach you about something. My daughter's going to help me come up with a Kahoot game. I'm like, how do I do that? So I think, but I beat them in air hockey, and that's my, forte. So.
Wow, yeah. But you're right that we talked about earlier, the routine, but modifying it. And that is a great example of, we have a modified routine during holidays. Holidays, we'll pick the activities.
I love that. And then lastly, you have the virtual, you have the participating in the photo scavenger hunt. Tell me about it.
Oh, yes. I love a photo scavenger hunt for several reasons. One, I love a scavenger hunt. I think it literally gets you moving more so than you ever anticipated. But also for families and friends. And during this time, we're being respectful of what's going on. We are trying to be careful, but we also want to continue to engage. Right. So I think of people on the West Coast, people in different countries, people down the street that maybe just you can't go out and go for a walk with them. A photo scavenger hunt allows you to say, this is what we're looking for. Come back in an hour, take a picture of it. Your neighbor can take a picture of going somewhere. Your grandparent in a different state can take a picture of being outside in their front porch. You can make it as easy or as difficult as you want, based on the group. But it is something that it really can go from any age, from, preschooler to, second, third generation removed.
Yeah, that sounds like fun. That's a new one. I haven't heard of that. I do hiding the elf.
Yes,
around the house. Oh, yes. I hide them all over the place. And, the elf and his friends, and they have to find them, and there's a prize. The same way, you incorporate in like the Easter egg hunt, you could hide things around your house, whether it's the favorite ornament, whoever finds the ornament gets to put it on the tree, or, there again, being creative. There's really no set rules. This is certainly a time to create your own fun, create your own rules, and start new traditions in your family.
Exactly. Enjoying the holidays in a way that, like we said, it's mindful, that it's peaceful, but you're also being committed to having fun again.
I think that's the key, is really having fun. And especially, like we've talked about this several times, in this space that we're in, you can still provide fun and joy. It requires work and creativity, but it's not impossible. And so it's definitely something that we can do for the cheap. You don't have to spend a lot of money to be creative or come up with great ideas. And so I love that.
And so many people are home, so this is a good time to, clean out the closet and find things and make and repurpose them. Figuring out what you could do with an old blanket to kind of liveling up or teach your children how to sew or make it, again, reusing things that you once would have easily thrown away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you're saying that, I can think of activities of like having a competition where you go and find old things and bring it back and see who can make the best new something.
Yeah,
like there's so many. The ideas are boundless, and like I said, I wish I had kids to do this, but I don't. So you
can round some up. I'm sure you have friends. You can round some up.
I'll use my friends' kids.
Do some photos, silly looks.
Switch up. I do all these activities for myself.
But with that, really quickly, this is a time that if you don't have children, that you can't spend time with your cousins or your nieces or nephews like you once would, the parents would certainly appreciate, hey, let me play a game virtually with them to give you a break for an hour. So it is time, even though you may not be able to be physically there, you can entertain their children for them. And we would love that, virtually, so it is,
I can think of some friends who may need just a moment.
Yes.
And if a virtual space will allow for them to just step away to do the mindfulness, that would be great.
That me time.
Yeah.
So let me know when you're ready for mine, Brandon.
Activities.
Like Tuesday around 5:00 really works for me.
Exactly. Wait, let me check my calendar.
This is actually like an entrepreneurial, idea for someone out there who, virtual babysitting. That you could, do activities with kids and give parents a time to step away. If they're not in class or whatever. So, I mean, creativity, imagination is definitely something that we need to incorporate. I think Christmas is a time where we bring back imagination because it's been forgotten all year. This is the time for you to activate those skills of creativity, imagination. So I love it. In closing, Kim, what else, can we do? Basically, one thing you would say to people out there who just want to manage all the stress, all everything that's going on, what thing should they just try to do?
I would say find something that you already have in your home and turn it into a game. Because that could be something that, once again, I'm a huge proponent of tradition, of lineage, of creating those memories. And as many, for lack of better terms, as many traumatic memories that students and kids might have for this year, find a way to create something that's a good memory that they can hang on to and not just think 2020 was the pits, Yeah.
I love that. Create a good memory. Dr. Ebanks, you were going to say something?
I certainly agree with Kim on that it is, again, kind of going back to the grateful list, that 2020 has looked very different for many people, and at the end to realize that you are here. You do have the loved ones with you, and those that might have lost some loved ones, to hold on to those memories. Certainly this is a time to make those photo collages, go back to photo albums of the loved ones that you might have lost and can't be with you, but preserving their memories in a photo album. I think that's, something that you could do as a family in terms of healing from some loss. And then again, doing new things, nothing new that cost, but something new that you value, with your, children. So I would certainly, I think that we could certainly look forward to 2021, but learn what all of the valuable lessons that 2020 has had.
Lessons and opportunities. I think that's a great idea with thinking about the people that you've lost in 2020 and bringing them and including them still in the traditions and memories of Christmas or whatever holiday you're celebrating around this time. So I think that's a very good idea.
Because the holidays is a very difficult time for many.
Yes.
Unfortunately, because of loss or because of, relationships that didn't go well. So it is already a very trying time. And, this year is, might be, 10 times as more difficult, even hearing like, what's on the news, how many jobs are going to get laid off after, December 25th and, the benefits that end after this. And it's like, wait a minute, can we just continue that joy up to, December 25th, and not worry about what is to come after, that. So again, Brandon, I so appreciate you. This year, you have always been a huge supporter of the MECCA Group. And when, this idea came about to start the MECCA Group, you were all in. So certainly appreciate you and all of our guests, such as Kim Edwards and so many other people from our team and other guests that have been with us. We so appreciate everybody's time. And that is what we have been able to give each other is time, and conversation and discussion about so many topics, whether they have to do with having to cope with the pandemic or just life. I mean, I think we've had some really deep conversations, but at the same time, we've had very uplifting and joyful and playful conversations. And that's what we certainly want to do is continue to promote, emotional wellness and what that means to each individual as well as a group and as a people, especially for those Black and Brown people. So from the MECCA Group, my business partner, Dr. Keisha Mack and I, we just, wish everyone the best in the ending of 2020. And we look forward to continuing to have MECCA moments. This is our last MECCA moment for 2020, and we're going to come with great ideas for 2021. So we want our viewers to send us what they want to hear about, what they want to learn about, what they want to talk about. And we're going to do some new things in 2021 with the MECCA moment.
Yeah, I've enjoyed being a part of MECCA Moments this year. When you said, talked about doing this, I was like, okay, let's do it. And it's been great. It's been more than I imagined. The conversations, the thoughts that have come from these conversations and the experts and, everyone, it's just been so amazing and has encouraged me to think about how I do things and how I move throughout the world. And so I appreciate the opportunity for being a part of this. Kim, I don't know about you, but did you expect to get a car from this? Or I was like, is the car coming?
I'm looking out my window.
You mean a card? A card? We're going to send a good card.
Yes, I want carolers. I want a car. I want those big checks.
So yeah, we really appreciate you, Dr. Ebanks, for this opportunity and giving us the space to, talk about what we know and help others, move forward and move through their pain and challenges and trauma and find opportunities and grace and gratefulness and happiness and joy at every moment, because what MECCA wants to promote is living fully. And so
yes,
thank you for this.
Yeah.
Thank you. Wonderful.
Well, that's it for the year. MECCA Moment 2020. We'll see you back in 2021. Hope you have a wonderful, safe, happy holidays. And if you have any questions or thoughts or anything, just hit us up on Facebook or the email or go to our website. We're here. We want to hear from you, and we'll be back. We'll see you in 2021.
Yes. Thank you.